Aaron Rodgers had a rough night in Cincinnati on Thursday. During the Steelers' 33-31 loss to the Bengals, an angry Rodgers got into it with two different teammates, and in both situations, he had every right to be upset. In the first quarter, Rodgers was caught on camera yelling at Steelers running back Jaylen Warren after Pittsburgh ran a flea flicker on a play that apparently wasn't supposed to be a flea flicker. Warren took a handoff from Rodgers and then pitched back to the quarterback, who immediately had to throw the ball in the ground. Following the play, Rodgers walked over to Warren and made it clear he wasn't happy. After the game, Rodgers was asked about that specific play and whether Warren was supposed to pitch him the ball. "It wasn't supposed to be a flea flicker," Rodgers said. "We weren't on the same page. There was definitely some sort of miscommunication, and it wasn't just with Warren. Mike Tomlin also thought it was supposed to be a flea flicker." Following the loss, the Steelers head coach was asked directly if a flea flicker was called in the first half. "It was," Tomlin said. "Normally, you defer to the quarterback here and assume he's right, but Rodgers is in just his sixth game with the Steelers, so it's certainly possible there was some confusion on his end." Either way, Tomlin and Warren thought it was a flea flicker, and Rodgers is clearly adamant it was not. In the fourth quarter, Rodgers got so upset with a different teammate that he actually pushed him. After the quarterback threw a 68-yard touchdown pass to Pat Freiermuth that put Pittsburgh up 31-30, with just 2:21 left to play, the Steelers started celebrating. Offensive lineman Broderick Jones decided to celebrate the score by tackling Rodgers, and as you can see below, the four-time NFL MVP was not happy. Rodgers actually shoved Jones before walking to the sideline. It's easy to see why Rodgers was upset here. Jones weighs more than 300 pounds, so Rodgers very easily could have been injured. When you're a 300-pound offensive lineman and you have a 41-year-old quarterback, you should never tackle him under any circumstance. Rodgers did have an impressive night against the Bengals, throwing for 249 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions. It was a painful loss for the quarterback, who had his team on the cusp of a win before watching the Bengals pull out the victory on a last-second field goal. Cleveland Browns coach Kevin Stefanski was not watching as his former quarterback, Joe Flacco, lit up the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday night. Flacco turned back the clock and carved up the Steelers for 327 yards and 3 touchdowns. It included a clutch game-winning drive that gave the Bengals a 33-31 victory. Flacco was the Browns' opening day starter, but was traded to the Bengals a week after being benched in favor of Dillon Gabriel. Stefanski didn't catch the AFC North clash between Flacco's Bengals and the Steelers, who beat the Browns 23-9 last week. "I did not, no. I'm definitely asleep on Thursday nights," Stefanski said. "You're always rooting for all of your friends around the league, and that really happens on a lot of teams. But really mostly focused on our team and what we got in front of us." One member of the Browns who did tune in was star defensive end Myles Garrett. "I think Joe looked like Joe. I mean, I'm happy that he went out there and got a win," Garrett said. "He played how we know he can, and so he made plays when they needed him to. Got the ball out quick, put on the money down the field, looked great." Browns Myles Garrett questions offense amid skid. Garrett didn't question Flacco's success in Cincinnati, citing that it comes down to the personnel. "I mean, all offenses are a little bit different, whether it's the players that they have or the schemes that they run," Garrett said. "So, you got to make it work for with the guys that you have and figure it out from there." What Garrett questioned was the Browns' recent game plan against the Steelers. Gabriel threw the ball 52 times, and the Quinton Judkins-led run game never got a chance to get going with the Browns chasing. "I would have liked to see us stick to the run a little bit, especially with a dynamic playmaker like Quinton, hell, even Dylan Sampson," Garrett said. "Both of them getting the ball, both of them have different styles, but effective runners in their own right. So, would like to see it, but they saw differently." Browns offense looking to get on track. The Browns' offensive struggles have been well documented. Cleveland is averaging an NFL worst 13.7 points per game and has been unable to produce explosive plays, particularly in the passing game. Getting the offense on track Sunday might be tough, with some inclement weather inbound. Rain and strong winds are expected, which could hamper Cleveland's ability to pass the ball. I mean, you gotta spin it in the wind. Dylan does that pretty well, Browns offensive coordinator Tommy Rees said. Throws a pretty tight ball. Obviously, you got to play on time, some balls that maybe get away with late, but if you're playing on time, playing on rhythm, hopefully you're pretty efficient still. Cleveland is a slight favorite for the first time this season as they host the 1-5 Miami Dolphins. The Pittsburgh Steelers are rumored to be in the market for a wide receiver ahead of the November 4th NFL trade deadline, and the team has regularly been linked to Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Jakobi Meyers and New Orleans Saints wideout Chris Olave via speculation. Trade rumors have swirled around Meyers since the offseason, and for good reason. The veteran receiver requested a trade during the offseason after not getting an extension, and it's logical to believe the Raiders could move him before he potentially leaves for nothing in 2026. Las Vegas is also sitting at 2-4, and their hopes of making the playoffs are slim, at best, which could lead to the Raiders being sellers and Meyers being jettisoned. Meanwhile, the Saints are in an even worse spot at 1-5, and Olave is arguably their best trade asset. New Orleans desperately needs to kickstart a rebuild, and acquiring what could be a day 2 pick for the talented wideout would be a huge help. While the Steelers should have their eyes on both players, The Athletic's Diana Rossini reports that the Saints are actually trying to extend Olave, which casts doubt on the team actually trading him. The Saints have been trying to work out a long-term contract for receiver Chris Olave despite his name being attached to teams looking for pass catchers, she reported. As for Meyers, there's good news if the Steelers have interest. Rossini reports that the Raiders are open to trading their top receiver. The Raiders are open to moving receiver Jakobi Meyers while making calls on defensive linemen and corners, Rossini wrote. The Saints really don't have to be in a rush to trade Olave. After all, he signed through 2026 and he's only 25, so he's young enough to be in their long-term plans. Furthermore, with 2 young quarterbacks, keeping Olave will help their development. It's a different story for Las Vegas and Meyers, who is in the final year of his deal. And after being disgruntled over his contract situation, chances are Meyers isn't going to be looking to be back in 2026, barring the Raiders having a change of heart that leads to them giving Meyers the bag. Olave is the more ideal target considering his age, contract situation, and the fact that he's better than Meyers in general, but Meyers is no slouch and would be a massive upgrade for Pittsburgh next to DK Metcalf. Meyers has posted 4 800-yard seasons during his career, including a 1,000-yard campaign in 2024. Not elite production by any stretch, but he has routinely had to deal with awful quarterback play throughout his career. Aaron Rodgers would undoubtedly be the best quarterback Meyers has ever caught passes from. If general manager Omar Khan can come away from the deadline with Meyers, it would be a massive win for the Steelers.